In this video, I'm going to show you step by step on how to create this parametric mesh railing in Revit. Let's go. So I'm going to start with a new project. And I'm going to go to use architectural template. Before you create an element, it's always wise to check the units. So I'm going to tap in UN, and you can see right now the units is in millimeters. I'm going to change this to meters so it's easier for me to work in. Alright, so the first step is let's create a simple railing and then we can change that railing accordingly. So let's go to architecture and click on railing here. And we can use the line tool and create a railing as such. So maybe an L-shape railing. So it's going to follow this path. We simply need to click on this green tick. By the way, we're using this type for now, 1100 mm. So I'll show you how that looks in 3D. This is a simple vertical railing with a handrail on top and some vertical elements. So let's duplicate this railing. I'm going to select this railing, click on edit type again. And before I make changes here, I'm going to duplicate this railing. I'm going to call this mesh railing. Perfect. Now we can start making changes. So you can see right now the railing height is 1.1 meter. I'm going to change this height. So right now you can see the top rail is on and it's 1.1. Let's change this to 1.2. So now if I change this here, it automatically changes here as well. Now we need to include the horizontal elements. Let's first include the horizontal mesh elements. So to include the horizontal mesh elements into this railing type, you need to edit the rail structure. So let's click on edit here. Right now you can see it is blank, and that's why we do not see any horizontal elements. So let's click on insert, and I'm going to insert about 10 horizontal elements. And each of these elements is going to be spaced about 10 centimeters apart. So I'm going to type in 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, and so on. Alright, so I've added the railings here at a spacing of 10 centimeters between each of them, from the bottom, the host, to the top, and it ends at 1 meter. Now we need to include our profile here as well, so we need to create a separate profile. For now, let's use the default profile and see how this looks. So let's click on apply and click on OK. Now you can see we have a very thick profile. So let's create our own profile and bring it into this project. So I'm going to go to File, New, Family, and here I'm going to select Metric Profile. You can also go for the Metric Profile Rail, but metric profile works for us. So let's open this. Now here I'll need to create a simple profile. So let's go to create and let's click on line here. Now I need circular profile. So I can select circle here and I can give a radius as well. So the radius in this case would be about 2 mm. And then I can place it in there. It's also important to lock this circle to the reference planes. So I'm going to select the circle. There's this center mark visible option here. So now you can see if I move the circle away, there's this center mark. So it's a good idea to snap this with the center lines so that it stays right in the center. And once you're done, you can always, of course, switch off the center mark visible. Now, if you want to make this parametric, that is also possible. You can select this circle, click on this temporary dimension so that it becomes permanent. Then you need to select this dimension. Now if you see this dimension line, it's a bit big, so you can change this to 1:1, and then you see that it is slightly smaller now if you change the scale. So I'm going to select this dimension and I'm going to add a parameter. So let's add a simple parameter. This is the radius. Now since I've added a parameter, this is a parametric circle, which means I can change the radius here. So we can have different circles and with different radiuses. For now, let's leave it at this and we can change it later on the project as well. I'm going to save this family, so Steuerung S or Control S, and it's a good idea to save it in our library. So I've created a special library for myself. I'm going to save this here as MPS, which is my firm name, and call this profile circular, a simple profile. So profile circle parametric. I also like to keep the backup to 1. So now let's save this here. And before I load this in the project, there's one important step that you need to keep in mind, which is the category. So let's go to category here. So right now it is under profile category, but we'll need to also change the profile usage here. And we're going to add it to railing. So make sure the profile usage is railing. Click on OK. And now we can load into project and close. So I'm going to load this into our project, our new project. Make sure to always save your family as well. Now let's use this profile here. So let's click on edit. And let's go to the profile list here. And you can see right now we have our new profile in here. Now, if you want to copy this over to the other profiles as well, the best way is to select the name, Control A, Control C, and then simply paste it over to the other options as well. This is a faster way. Or you can simply select it from here as well. Both work equally well. And if you'd like to change the material for each of these profiles, then you can change the material from here. For now, I'll leave it as is. I'm going to click on OK, click on apply. And now you can see it looks much better. So if you'd like to change the thickness, then you would need to use the right profile. So for example, right now I think it is using the 4 mm profile. So if you'd like to use the 2 mm profile, then you can open that parametric circle family again and simply change the radius from here. So I'm going to change this to 2 mm. And do not create new types, because then you would need to select the appropriate type in your project. Simply load this back into your project and select the second option, overwrite the existing version and its parameter value so that it reads from the family. So now you can see it's become a little more thinner and looks much better. Perfect. So now let's add these elements vertically as well. Probably I would need another horizontal element here, so 1.1 meter as well. So I'm going to go to the rail structure. I'm going to add a new one, and it's going to be 1.1, and I can simply select this profile here. It's also a good idea to rename these railings. So let's call this the top rail, and let's call this the bottom rail. Perfect. Now if you click on apply, you can see that additional profile there. Now let's edit the vertical elements. So to edit the vertical elements, you need to edit the baluster placement. Now here, for example, you can see that we have a vertical element between the start post and the end post, and those are these elements here. So I will need to edit those. So let's click on edit. And right now the spacing or the distance between each other is 0.275. Let's change this. I'm going to keep this spacing 0.1. I'm going to select the base as bottom rail and the top as the top rail. And I'm going to change the baluster family to our profile. So you can see we cannot select the profile circle family in this list, because these are baluster families, and you will need to create a specific baluster family using the baluster template to use in your railing. Now, unfortunately, that would go beyond the scope of this video. So I will create another specific video on how you can create such baluster families. For now, I will show you a quick hack on what you can do to replicate the same sort of profile horizontal circular family. So let's click on OK. And let's go to our family list here and search for baluster. So you can see that is this baluster round family here. You can simply right click on this family and click on new type, and let's call this 2 mm radius, right? Now if you double click on this type, you can change the diameter. So in this case it would be about 4 mm. So it's going to be 0.004. You can also rename this because diameter, because the type is named as diameter. So let's simply call this 4 mm. So we've created a new type here, 4 mm. And now let's use this baluster type in our railing. So let's select the railing, click on edit type, go to our baluster placement list. And now when you click here, you can notice that we have our new baluster round 4 mm railing. So now if I click on apply, OK, and apply again, and now we have a perfect mesh in place. Now, of course, we need some vertical supports, and support on top as well. Now generally the top rail and the bottom rail has a different profile. So let's select this, click on edit type, go to our rail structure, and let's change the profile for the top rail to one of the options here. You can also create your own family if you like. In my case, I'm simply going to go with profile handrail square 20 mm. The same thing I would like to use here as well. So let's click on OK and click on apply. So we have a horizontal element here. And now we need some vertical elements so that it can support the top rail. So that is from the bottom, the host, to the top rail. So let's click on edit here. Go to baluster placement. And so you can see right now we already have a start post, corner post and end post. That's baluster square 25 mm. This post here. Maybe we can change this to 20 mm. So that matches the top, these horizontal elements as well. And now here, let's add a new rail. So let's click on duplicate the vertical baluster. So we've created a new baluster here. And let's change this to baluster square 20 mm. And let's leave the distance from previous to 0. So let's click on OK and then click on apply. So now you can see we have vertical elements. And we also have the element inside since our offset is 0. So let's give an offset. So I'm going to give an offset to 1. So now we have one vertical element and one 20 mm square section and then our 4 mm circular section. But of course this is wrong. So we need to change this. So in order to get your desired effect, what you would need to do is you would need to duplicate the baluster around 4 mm and you would need to give a distance as well from the previous baluster. So let's duplicate these, maybe about 5, 6. So that's about 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 centimeters spaced between each other. And then here I would leave it at 0. So now I'll show you how this looks. So now you can see it, now it makes more sense, but of course we need to change the host. So that is our baluster square 20 mm would start from the host, which is our flooring in most cases or the finished floor, all the way to the top rail element, which is our handrail. And I can duplicate this further. So right now it's just 60, 10, 20, 30. 40, 50, 60. Maybe I would like it to have about 1 meter from each. Alright, so now we have exactly 10 vertical mesh railings and then we have our baluster for support. So now if I click on apply, OK, and then click on apply again. So now you can see it comes in perfectly. But we have another problem and that is the problem here. So let's fix the problem here. Let's click on edit type, click on baluster placement again. Now this problem generally comes from your justification. So you can see justify is beginning. Let's set this to spread pattern to fit. So now if you click on OK and then click on apply again. So now it works perfectly. So we've created a parametric wire mesh railing. And now you can use this wherever you like. So for example, if I create a railing as such and then click on finish, we created our parametric railing. You can also use this railing on staircases and more. If you like this video, please do subscribe, and if you like more such tutorials and also like to further develop your career in Revit and BIM, head to archgyan.com for more such tutorials and courses. I'll see you guys next video. Cheers.